You probably think the greatest and strangest discoveries are made in distant lands with a large number of workers equipped with the most sophisticated tools, but you're very wrong. Some people have made the strangest discoveries in the backyards of their homes. Impressive, incredible, and even dangerous are the cases we'll show you next, and they'll make you double-check your yard to see if you find something impressive enough to be included in this top 5 mysterious things found in people's backyards. Before we begin, make sure you hit that subscribe button to get notified every day for more amazing content. With that being said, let's begin. Number 5. 15,000-year-old mammoth remains. Can you imagine digging in your property and finding a millennial fossil? Well, incredible as it may seem, this can happen. James Bristol is the name of this man who made this great discovery. He's working on a soy field with a friend on his property in southern Michigan when they dug up what looked like the bent pole of a fence covered in mud. But it wasn't a pole. It was something much more impressive. It was the pelvis of an ancient woolly mammoth that lived about 15,000 years ago. A team of paleontologists of the University of Michigan excavated in the locality of Lima Township the rest of the animal and managed to recover the 20% of the skeleton of the mammoth, including the skull, the 2 great fangs, numerous vertebrae, the pelvis, and the shoulder plates. Along with the mammoth, evidence of human activity was discovered, explained the paleontologist Daniel Fisher. Due to the nature of this discovery, it's believed the humans chopped up the mammoth and kept the meat so that they could look for it later. But of course, they didn't imagine that after was going to be 15,000 years after. When the farmer Bristol discovered it was a pelvis, he said he was impressed because he didn't know what he had found. The first thing he thought was that it was a cow, but it was too big to be a cow. He said his 5-year-old grandson was shocked when he saw the big fossil. Awesome. That's the only word that can describe this incredible and mysterious discovery. The most common is to find these fossils in remote areas where there are practically no people, but it turns out this man was lucky enough to find it on his property. Can you imagine having something of this magnitude under your house and not knowing about it? Can you imagine how paleontologists should have felt? Years of work, research, and 100 teams to try to make a discovery like that, and suddenly a person who's not an expert in the matter comes along and discovers this almost by accident. We don't blame them if they feel a little jealous. Number 4. A mysterious rock. We've all used our backyards as the stage for the funniest games where imagination was the main character. A great space to run and have fun together with our siblings and friends is the perfect place for a little kid to create the funniest adventures. Exploring was also something super fun we could do in the yard, and maybe one of the funniest activities was looking for worms. Sure, as long as they don't seem terrifying and disgusting. Well, the stars of this story were doing exactly that, hunting earthworms. But while they were doing that, they came across something very mysterious that aroused even more their curiosity and the one of many people who heard about this. One regular day, 2 sisters were digging in the backyard of their house. They wanted to find worms, but they found something else. They discovered a strange stone that seemed to shine. They didn't have the slightest idea what they had found. The stone didn't look common at all and seemed to have a layer of some blue liquid on top. Upon finding this, all kinds of crazy theories began to go through their heads. It could be anything: a magical stone, alien material, or even a meteorite that was buried a long time ago. They ended up saying it was a meteorite, but for them, it wasn't enough just to find this and make a few assumptions about what it could be. To be sure, they took the stone to a mineral analyst in the local area. However, not even there could they decipher what it was. The fact that not even the specialist could decipher what this strange object was, far from soothing their curiosity, made it increase. Expectations were extremely high. They ended up sending the strange rock to the local university to study it better. After conducting a thorough investigation, the results were disappointing to say the least. It was discovered the object was simply remains of glass, which was often used as an ornament for the lawn. Bummer. It was quite sad and disappointing, and even more after trying so hard to discover what this was. It would have been so much better to keep it secret and keep the illusion whole. But you never know when you can find something really valuable. Number 3. A nuclear shelter. There was a time in the history of mankind where having a nuclear shelter was as common as having a dinner table in the garden. A nuclear shelter is a closed and confined space designed especially to protect dwellers from the waste and radioactive cloud resulting from a nuclear explosion. Several of these shelters were built for civil defense during the Cold War. The fear of nuclear war was so huge, many people chose to have one of these in their homes. Obviously, after the time went by, these shelters were no longer within people's priorities. They stopped building them, and most of those that had been built ended up destroyed. But not all the shelters disappeared, and a couple in California found one in their backyard. Colleen and Chris Otkasek wanted a house and decided to buy an old one located in Woodland Hills, California in the United States. When making the deal, the property broker warned them that there was a hole in the backyard. In fact, The agent described them with those exact words, so the couple imagined maybe it was an unfinished pool or something similar. But the truth is, these assumptions were quite far from reality. During the period of the Cold War, the fear of nuclear attacks became a collective madness in the United States. Then, this increased in the early 60s by the missile crisis. That's why, in 1913, Alvin Kaufman, who was living in Woodland Hills back then, specially made the design of an anti-bomb shelter to protect his family. The bunker is almost 5 meters deep and is equipped with everything necessary to survive for 2 or 3 weeks, which was the time that Kaufman estimated that, in case of a nuclear bombardment, radioactivity disappeared. On the shelves and drawers were jars of coffee, cans of food, medicines, clothes of the time, old magazine, books, and even board games. In other words, everything necessary to make the time there as pleasant as possible. The new owners felt the refuge created by Alvin Kaufman should remain intact, as a historical memory and a surprise for future owners. This is simply amazing and actually useful because when this couple has an argument, the husband has a place to go. Number 2. Human bones. Finding human bones must be one of the worst things that can happen to someone. Not knowing where they come from or the reason why they're there is by far the worst part. But now, picture this. Didn't find them walking in a forest or in a desolate area, but instead, you found them in the backyard of your house. Well, that's what happened to a teenager in the year 2014 who had the bad luck to run into human bones. Erturk, a 14-year-old from Salt Lake City, Utah, United States, made an incredible find by chance while digging a trout pond in the backyard of his home, the bones of an American indigenous of about 1,000 years old. At first, the teenager thought it was just an animal bone, but noticing that it resembled a human skull, he felt this was definitely quite spooky. Of course, the boy's father called the authorities, and who wouldn't? It's not every day you try to make a trout pond and end up finding a 1,000-year-old corpse. A forensic anthropologist took the bones to study them and to get more information about the person, their sex, and cultural affiliation. Yes, this seems to be taken out of the TV show Bones. The study showed they were indeed the remains of an American indigenous who had lived there about 1,000 years ago. Archaeologists continued to dig in their courtyard, believing they'll find an Indian cemetery in nearby areas that will help them to understand ancient cultures in a better way. In the name of science and history, all of that sounds very good. But let's see. We've all heard stories about indigenous cemeteries and the houses that have been built on top of them. Now you can imagine how this boy will feel at night. Having a good night's sleep shouldn't be easy at all, and hearing any strange noise at night should sure give you goosebumps. At least we can't imagine having a relaxing night after finding human remains buried in the backyard. What would you do? Would you stay in your house knowing it's built on or near an indigenous cemetery? Or would you put everything up for sale to get out of there as soon as possible? Number 1. A tunnel to the Egyptian pyramids. Life is filled with coincidences. Some are as common as finding an old-school friend, but on the other hand, there are such incredible coincidences as finding a tunnel to a famous Egyptian pyramid in your own home. Countless archaeological missions tried to find the path leading to the Great Pyramid of Giza, but all searches ended in failure, until a local resident who lived near the Giza Plateau made one of the most important discoveries in the last decade. During an illegal excavation under his house, he discovered a tunnel leading to the Pyramid of Cheops, the largest of the 3 pyramids in Giza. According to the news report published by an information agency, the discovery was made thanks to a resident who lived near the pyramids while performing an illegal drilling 10 meters deep under his house. And precisely as the excavation was illegal, the individual fled the scene. Archaeologists observed the walls of this incredible tunnel that leads to one of the most important landmarks of our planet. It's actually made of large blocks of stone. The chief of detectives of antiquities of Giza said the quack was digging for months under his house near the pyramids, where it's forbidden to dig or build any building. This was an archaeological complex where the Great Pyramid had a footbridge that connected the gigantic tomb with the Temple of Cheops. The finding indicates this temple located near the Nile River lies buried under a small town, very close to the pyramids of Giza. The discovery of the secret hallway could be classified as one of the most important discoveries directly related to the Great Pyramids of Giza. Archaeologists hope to find detailed information about the purpose of the tunnel and the connected areas. It seems incredible something like this ever happened, but it did. The most experienced archaeologists have been trying to make such a discovery for years, and it ends up being done in a casual way. It's not every day you find in the courtyard of your home a pretty old tunnel that also leads to one of the most famous pyramids of all time. But that's the irony of life. There are things that simply have no explanation. They're great mysteries. So, however small your backyard may be, don't underestimate it. You may find something mysterious and great. Alright, Top Fivers, if you haven't already, make sure to visit our other channel, The Brilliant, for even more interesting list videos that'll blow your mind. But I'm warning you, the videos over on The Brilliant are extremely addicting to watch as well. There'll be a link in the description to the channel, so make sure to come and visit us. Or you can go to our latest video popping up on screen right now. Oh, and have you visited thefinestpost.com to enjoy the most amazing articles you'll ever get to read? If not, click the link in the description.